this video, I'm going to talk to you about using slip as a surfacing material for ceramic work. So most of the time when we talk about slip in ceramics, it's often referring to when you score a piece and you mix a more liquid form of your clay body in order to use as a glue to hold pieces together. A slip, or some people will call it an engobe, is also a specifically formulated clay body that's very liquidy. It has a lot of flow to it, but it can be formulated to be specific colors, so it lets you add color and detail to your pieces. This is something that is only done in the green state of ceramics. You can't apply slip once it's past the leather hard stage. Ideally, you are applying slip at the either soft leather hard to a slightly more firm leather hard state of the clay. You do not want to attempt to apply it when it's bone dry, and whatever you do, do not attempt to apply slip to a ceramic surface once it has been bisque fired. The slip will not actually adhere to the surface. So we can work with slip kind of like paint. You can take a paintbrush and you can paint your designs however you like. Lines, fills, pretty much anything goes. You can paint with them pretty much just in solid coats. You can sort of work with them somewhat thinly, like watercolors, but a word of advice: because of the type of pigments that slip uses for ceramics, because it has to go through firing, color theory in terms of mixing colors does not work. Say you mixed red and blue, you're not going to get purple. You're likely to end up with brown or gray, or in all likelihood it's still going to be blue, because blue and green tend to dominate virtually every other color used in ceramics. So you have to be careful if you want a specific color. You can't just think, oh, I can mix these two colors to get there to get that. It does not actually work in ceramics that way. We have to use specifically formulated pigments for each individual color. So from there, so you can do designs. What I'm actually going to demonstrate is covering the whole surface, because I actually want to use a technique called sgraffito. So I'm just going to apply this, and I'm just going to kind of flood the surface. I'm not going to apply it too thick because I want this to dry fairly quickly. Certain colors coat really well. Like you can see, this green coats quite well just in one coat. The blue and black do fairly good as well in terms of one coat. Some of the colors like yellow, white, basically anything that's really light colored, you are likely going to need to put down 2 coats. I generally am going to advise you to do 2 coats of pretty much anything. And I usually go one way once and then go across that grain the next time, just to try to even it out. If you flood the surface a little more, it won't leave the lines quite so much. Now I'm going to just set this aside and leave this alone, because this needs to dry enough for me to work with. If I try to carve into this right now, it's going to probably just leave an absolute mess. So I'm just going to set that aside. And then I'm going to pull up this other sort of object I have, because I have a bowl that is already coated in slip. So I coated the inside with the white slip, the outside with green. So this clay body is actually a cream. I know it looks gray right now, however it does actually fire to a cream color, so it's going to be very lightly colored. So, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to decide what I want to do with the surface, and I'm thinking I want something that's going to emphasize the fact that the form is narrower here and wider here. So I'm just going to start carving into the surface. And this is where it's important that you have let this dry, because if this is too wet, it's just going to become a very muddy mess. And I'm just going to do that on the other side and make that arch. You see how that is sort of cutting away in ribbons? That's what you want. And this is something where you kind of have to be careful, because if you mess up, you've got to recoat it probably a number of times to get it to do what you want. And then from here, I'm just going to do another one, and I can just keep cutting away and carving away at this. And what's going to happen when this is fired is you will see the sort of creamy colored clay underneath this, and the green will be on the surface itself. You can get as detailed as you like. You can also keep it simple. You can also just paint the entire surface one color if you so like. It just sort of depends on personal preference. Slip is a really quick and easy way to add color. And then it makes the glazing stage really simple, because all you have to do when you glaze this is apply clear glaze over the top. You can use different colors. Typically, if you're using slip, you want to stick with something transparent so that you can actually see the differences in the slip underneath. And that is sgraffito.